Hi, I'm here to talk to you about how to talk about your art with your portfolio during this college fair. My name is Isadora Stowe. I'm a professor at El Paso Community College. And as an artist and arts educator, my goal is to inspire and empower others to find value in art and in their own lives as creative contributors. So what I've just told you is basically my elevator pitch for this presentation. So what I've done is I've put a couple sentences together that are concise, that kind of tell you everything you need to know about who's presenting this information to you. It makes a lot of sense once you have that kind of information. I have a very short time to speak with you, so I had to make it very concise. And that's what you're going to have to create when you are speaking to someone in a very quick way for your portfolio review. So what's an elevator pitch? In a nutshell, it's this 30-second synopsis of your practice and what you do. And it's called elevator pitch because you're supposed to be able to give it to someone in the course of riding an elevator, right? You have very limited amount of concentrated time with someone. So how are you going to make the best of that time and tell them everything they need to know? So why this artist elevator pitch is so important and why does it work? Well, this is based off of these persuasion tricks that have been used for over 2,000 years, and they originated in ancient Greece by the philosopher Aristotle. Here's a little bit more information about that, about ethos, logos, etc., and pathos. But basically, I'm going to teach you how to break that down into a more contemporary way and how we can really kind of grab the attention of those we wish to grab the attention of. So an elevator pitch is also very important because it works. Our first impressions are very important, especially when we have a limited amount of time with people. And so unfortunately, they're not fair, right? We know that. It's a snap judgment about somebody, but it is something that happens. So we want to make sure that we're making the best impression as possible, especially in these reviews. So an elevator pitch is part of 6 strategies for talking about your art in an impactful way that I'm going to go over with you today. These 6 strategies are kind of broken up. So think about the word impact, and I'm going to break them up and talk to you about each one of those. Insightful thinking is the first one. So insightful thinking is really thinking about what you make and why you make it and why does it matter. So as artists, we're going to be responsible for this information for the rest of our academic and public careers as artists. Anytime someone asks us about our work, these are the kinds of things that we want to be able to tell them. This is going to change over your lifetime. This is going to change after this year. It's going to be constantly in flux. So these are going to be questions you're going to be asking yourself all the time. And they're going to be very helpful in trying to understand and contextualize what it is you are doing as an artist. Don't worry if you don't get these completely correct. You are still learning. That's why you're applying for a school. And they know that. They know that you are still in the beginning of your understanding of what it is that you're doing, and you just want to develop it more at their school, right? So this is how you're going to make an elevator pitch, basically. I'm going to give you an example. This is an artist, and this is their elevator pitch, because they're going to kind of explain what they make, why do they make it, and why does it matter, right? And this is, I'm a painter. My artwork is based on the human form, and I present it in an abstract way. So they're just saying what they do, right? They use paint. How do they use it in an abstract way? You could say representational, non-objective, right? Or however you want to describe it. And the second is, I'm interested in birth and my own understanding of humanity, the cycles of birth and the understanding of the world, right? So what that elevator pitch is doing is it's demonstrating brainstorming and thinking about your work. and the ideas in your portfolio. So when you are showing your portfolio, which you will learn more about showing your portfolio, but you want to make sure that you're showing pieces that also reflect that you're really thinking about subject matter, you're brainstorming ideas, and you have some ideas about what you're trying to communicate, right? Not just that it's a pretty thing. You want to have some descriptive things to talk about. So if you're having trouble coming up with that, do some automatic writing where you just kind of write ideas about what you're making, what you're interested in, what you're trying to say. Ask your educators around you to give you some feedback. Ask your peers what they think they're seeing in your work, etc. You want to get a lot of feedback so you can kind of understand what it is your work is doing. And it's natural for most artists to not really understand what they're making so much at this point in your career, in this point in your development. So it's very helpful to get a lot of insight from other people and to really start to think about what it is you're trying to do in your work. Okay, so the other thing is you want to add kind of a hook when you're talking about your work. So you're giving an elevator pitch. You're saying what it is you do, what it's about, right? Very quickly. And then you want to kind of open up the conversation. So you could say something that brings that artwork into the everyday experience. It kind of pulls somebody in so they can kind of share that experience with you. So for instance, this artist is saying, have you ever been driving in a car and the light is green and you kind of turn your head because someone is looking at you, you felt their presence, you felt like somebody was kind of staring at you? That's what this person is super interested in conveying in her art. That thing we feel when we can feel another person. So everybody can kind of understand that feeling, right? That's a feeling that you don't have to be an artist, you don't have to be the person making the artwork to understand that. So it's a way to kind of bring people into your work, okay? So there's your elevator pitch and there's your hook, but you want to make sure that you're very concise when you speak. So you want to prepare your questions you have in advance of the event, and you might want to even consider taking the time to run these 1 or 2 sentences by someone else to make sure it makes sense and is clear. So the review sessions are going to be very quick and you won't have time to really explain your work in a great deal of depth. So this is very helpful for kind of organizing your thoughts. Here's another example of an artist's pitch. I'm an artist who likes to use digital methods to create collages of color and celebrities. I'm interested in fame and its relationship to our contemporary culture. Okay? The hook is, have you ever wondered why some celebrities have so many people who love them and feel like they know them, even though they've never met? I'm interested in understanding why that happens and how that feeling can be conveyed in my work. Okay, so it pulls people in, right? It's just short, it's concise, but it gives you a lot of information. And I'll tell you, I just pulled this image from the internet and I made this up, right? You can make whatever you want up. It's going to tell the narrative that you want to tell. It could be any narrative. You are the author of what you're trying to say about your work, so you can frame it that way. The way that other people see your work is something different, and we're going to talk about that in a second. And that is the second for impact, which is M. M is meet me at the door. So when you're talking about your work, you want to also remember that it's not just about telling people what to think about their work and what your art means, but it's also helping people into the door so that they can discover and find an understanding and come up with their own meaning of your work. So just like a good host, when you're inviting someone into your house at the door, you're going to let people come in and you're going to let them discover. So you're trying to give people a point of entry to let them discover by themselves what they're seeing, and you just want to welcome them in, okay? So you also want to know about the things that they are discovering. You don't want to be too surprised by them. It's okay if you are, but you also want to know what you're talking about. So if they are talking about things in a formal analysis, which is the grammar and the vocabulary of art, right? You want to know those things. You want to know the element and principles of art, the 10 elements of art, the 10 principles of art. If these are not familiar to you, you want to familiarize yourself with these concepts because these are terms that people will use when talking about your work. And you want to understand what they're talking about, and you want to also be able to use them when describing your work, okay? So when people are meeting you at the door and they're asking you questions and they're going through discovery, You want to be able to be informed enough to answer their questions. P is for passion and impact. You want to show your emotion. You want to show the emotion towards the things that you are doing. If you're not excited about the stuff that you're making and what you're trying to do with your art, why would anybody else be, right? Nobody's going to remember the monotone person who seemed uninterested. You want to be excited about what you're sharing, what you have to share. It doesn't have to be over the top. It doesn't have to be overly effusive, but you just have to show that you are interested, aware, and passionate about the things that you do, that they are important to you. Okay? People are attracted to that kind of energy. So A is for authentic. And authentic storytelling is a really amazing way to connect to people with your art. You can talk about the stories about what happens to you as an artist. So if the story of you isn't really in the work in some way, you can also talk about an authentic story that connects you to the work. And you want to write down these stories in advance so that you kind of remember them. And you can bring them up should you have the opportunity to share them. Again, this is a very short amount of time. So you may not have the opportunity, but it's always good to be thinking about these things and thinking about how you connect to your work authentically. C is for confidence. You want to have confidence with your work because you are really the best person to talk about your art. You can talk about your art in the best way possible because you created it, right? You are the creator. So having a confident attitude is very important. What it says is, I am in this room, I am here. It's showing your presence. And I know this can be a very hard thing, especially in the beginning of your career, in the beginning of making your work. But failure is always better than not trying at all. Just try to talk about your work in the best way possible. Practice, practice, practice. Do as many kinds of things that will help you build that confidence, and know that you are the best person to talk about your art. It doesn't mean what other people have to say about your art is not true or not valid or not helpful. It means that you know what you're talking about. You made this thing. You are interested in this thing. And that is completely truthful. So make sure to convey that when talking about your work. And T is for targeted outcome. So when you're thinking about talking to people and you're thinking about making your elevator pitch and how you're going to come across, you want to think about who is your audience, right? Your audience is going to be this portfolio review. So you want to make sure that you've done your research. You want to make sure that you are bringing value to the audience. What's going to be of interest for them to hear? What are you aiming towards? So all those things will really influence what you are talking about. Just like when you were doing all this kind of information for something else, like if you were talking to an auditorium of people, it would be a little bit different, or if you were talking in a gallery, etc. So you just want to think about your targeted outcome and really think about how you are bringing value to that audience. What is it that they are looking for, and what is it that you are bringing to bring value? I am very excited for you. I know you're going to do a great job. It's all about trying, it's all about learning, and I'm wishing you the best of luck. I hope this was very helpful for you.